So I didn't come all the way from the US. I've been in India for the past 2.5 years, so I didn't have to travel that far today, only from part of Mumbai. So I didn't know I'd have to follow the protein god himself, Mr. VJ. So I was kind of, shocked to see that. But, along the lines, we're in a very similar business. And I think if there's one thing everyone can take away today is eat more protein. I'm also advocating that. Possibly with all the samples on the table, you won't even need lunch today. So you can just eat a bunch of snacks and you'll be fine, trust me. So today I want to talk about perception versus reality, but more of how things will change in the future from mostly an Indian perspective on particularly the almond industry. So I pulled up the definitions real quick with the great Google of perception, which is the way in which something is regarded, understood, or interpreted. And then reality is the state of things, how they actually exist, as opposed to an idealistic or notional idea of them. A totally random example was the other day I was driving through town and all the construction fencing around the metro, right? Well, if they only put a metal barrier that had nothing on it, everyone would be losing their minds, right? They'd be go, what is this? It's taking forever. They're so slow. What's going on? But by simply putting Mumbai is getting upgraded, it changes the entire perception of how you feel about it, right? You look at it, you go, oh, it's getting upgraded. This is good, right? Fantastic. Even if it takes some time, no problem. So the perception of that is a massive thing, and that's typically what we're dealing with in marketing and advertising, as well as building brands and positioning and these types of things. So the first perception I'll start with is California. So this is what most of you are thinking. You're probably thinking beaches, Los Angeles or San Francisco, Facebook, Google, all these types of things. The reality is California is more like this. So the Central Valley of California is about 8 to 900 miles long. It's in the center of California, and that is some of the most rich and diverse agricultural land in the entire world. This region alone produces about 60% of all the food in the U.S. Everything from citrus to stone fruits like plums, peaches, apples, cherries, almonds, walnuts, pistachios, lettuce, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, grapes, table grapes, wine grapes. All of this is coming mostly from this region in the U.S. The largest of them, particularly as an export, is California almonds, as many of you may know. So this is actually a shot over a California almond farm. You can see it's mass scale. A lot of the farmers are working with minimum 200 acres, 1,000 acres, 2,000 acres at one time. So it's very large scale farming, very automated, extremely efficient farming. So some fun facts. California produces on any given year about 80% of the world's entire almond supply. So many people may think that, the almonds in India are from India or from somewhere else, but the reality is most of you are eating California almonds unless you're eating the Irani Mamra almonds, which are about triple the price and probably not worth the value, to be honest. We'll talk more about that later. So domestically is the biggest market for California, but as of 2 years ago, India overtook China as being the largest importer of California almonds in the world as a single country. So if you were to lump Europe together, then of course Europe is bigger, but as a single country, India is now the largest importer of California almonds, as well as the other things like walnuts is growing rapidly, California pistachios. Typically, India's been a Iran pistachio consumer. Now with pricing going up heavily and supply coming down and California's supply increasing and pricing coming down, we're seeing a lot more California imports into India on those products as well. This is a very traditional spot. I took this photo myself. This is in Delhi in Karibauli market, one of the oldest commodities markets in the world, one of the largest markets for commodities in the world. So as you can see, it's all open air market, very, very traditional style. People come in, they, taste a couple pieces, then they get loose and then they take it home. So this is, I used to go visit the market as being, I used to represent one of the largest California farming companies for almonds, and I would represent them for the India trade. So I would go into this market this is the retail kind of outside, but if you go into what's mostly like a dungeon of sorts, into the market, you'll find all the traders who probably work in a cubicle no half the size of this red carpet area, but they're turning over, crores and crores of business every day, as you watch it. So we'll start with this. Most people link dry fruits a lot to festivals, as well as healthy eating, but primarily it's been festivals. Only about 4 or 5 years ago, 50% of all the almond consumption in India was for Diwali. Now, we've seen that change rapidly in the past several years. So now only about 25% of the total consumption is during Diwali, and the rest is actually year-round consumption, everyday consumption, which is why this industry is very bullish, why people are very excited about India, because we're seeing that transformation of it moving away from just a festival type of consumption to more every single day consuming pattern. You have your typical box that you would get here. So I should probably come back to this one, but quickly, these are a bunch of different varieties of California almonds. These are different actually trees that could be grown in California, producing a different type of almond. It'll have a different shape, different color, different taste, different nutrient count, different amounts of protein. So India actually, everything we send to India is actually in the shell. And I'll talk more about that in a little while, but it's in the shell. And we only sell, ironically, the top grade of almond to India. So India buys the most expensive almond that we sell from California. Yet in the US, we eat probably the lowest grade of almond that we sell on a regular basis for our snacking purposes. So you can see a bunch of different varieties here, but most of these will be unaccepted by the Indian market, either because of the size or shape, because of the color, and things like that. So here's some traditional dry fruits perception, right? So almonds, for example, must be light in color. Can't have any little white specks or scratches that you see on them. The shape must be perfect, and larger is better. The truth is, California produces, a lot of different types of almonds, as I just showed you, each having its own color, shape, and size. The simple fact is that your stomach does not discriminate, right? Your stomach doesn't care how big the almond is. It doesn't care what the color is, right? Dark skin, light skin, medium skin. Your stomach says, I want the nutrients from this thing, and that's it, right? So that's what we're trying to push this market into over time. But right now, the perceptions are very, very strict, and we'll go more into that in a bit. So a lot of this comes down to eating with your eyes, right? That saying rings true more in India than probably anywhere I've been in the entire world. So because of the eating with your eyes phenomenon and the festival perception, that's what leads to this now kind of what I would call a hangover in perception. So the fact is, you don't need the perfect looking almond. If it has some scratches on it, that's perfectly fine. That doesn't matter. Nobody's, there's a lot of myths of, they've extracted the oil out of it, right? Somebody has come up with a grand scheme and they're scamming me and they've taken the oil out of this almond because there's a white scratch on it, which is actually not the truth, and I'll go more into that later. But the festival giving and kind of being traditionally in the past 100 years in India kind of a rich man's thing, that perception is now leaking over into the everyday consumption, right? And so that perception is taken over. So now, even though it's an everyday as a snack or as a morning thing that a mother is giving, when she goes to the store, she's actually still buying for a festival. It's as if she's buying for a festival or a gift, even though it's her monthly half kg to give to her kids and husband every morning, right? So it's hanging over, and that's one thing that we're trying to move these things overall into the future. That hey, it doesn't matter what it looks like, eating it overall is good. It's a high protein source. It's nutrient rich. All of these things, you should just be eating more of it in general. You don't need to worry about paying a premium for the best looking one. The other thing is that most people, going back to that as well, is it's more of a visual thing and not a nutrient based thing. And I think VJ has hit on a lot of these things as well today. That the consumer in India is not yet looking at things in a very functional basis, right? Whereas in the US, we're more of doing that as, okay, what's the functionality of this product? What's it going to give me? If it has some taste to it as well, I'm cool with that. But if not, then how much protein, how much nutrients, what vitamins am I getting? What added benefit is it giving to me? If there's taste, that's kind of a bonus. But if not, I'll just go for the functional aspect. And in India right now, most people are just purely seeking the taste aspect. But I think with brands like ours, with brands like VJ and Right Bite and all the new things that you see happening rapidly, I do think this transformation, in the next 5 years, you're going to see just an explosion of difference that you see in the Indian market. So earlier I was talking about the frequency of consumption, particularly for almonds. So as you can see here, the frequency of consumption several times a week, once a day or more, all these things. But eaten throughout the year, almonds is at 60%, right? So that's one reason, even though, personally for our brand Bazana, we sell all the typical dry fruits for that. I focus on almonds because I do think it's one of the more interesting ones, and it is kind of the big growth story in India over the past several years. The more exciting stuff is here. I would say that when almonds are consumed and the average number of almonds. So the average number in 2012, as you can see, 3.5, 3.6, 3.8, 3.8. In 2014, 4.6, 4.8, 4.6, 4.6. So you can see it's growing. I think it'll continue. I think those numbers will actually kind of compound a lot more. I think you'll see those numbers jump a lot higher every year moving forward now, especially with all these protein trends and all the new healthy snacking trends. I think we'll see that compound. For us, the big exciting one is when almonds are consumed. So typically, you guys know, right? Mom has it in the morning. She gives it to you. It's more of a pill or a prescription than anything else, right? It's here's your 4 or 5 pieces. You got to eat them. It's good for you. It'll sharpen your brain, whatever, right? But it's very much, I've never seen it like that anywhere else. In China, it was nothing like that. In the US, it was nothing like that. Here, it's literally a prescription, which is actually also why the wholesale business has been so good for us, because even when pricing goes up or down, people will still consume that product. They're not as worried about it. But if we say doubled the price of potato chips, most people would say, oh, to hell with the potato chips, I don't need them then, right? But mothers are not doing that with almonds and most dry fruits. So it's actually been a very, very strong business for us. So as you can see, the most exciting part, though, is the late afternoon, early evening doubled between 2012 and 2014, right? So for us, and you guys will see in the market, right, everyone's promoting have us at 3 to 7 p.m. now, right? Whether it's a protein snack or even ice cream. I've seen ice cream companies now of 5 p.m. snack, eat an ice cream sandwich, right? So everybody's trying to target you at that timing because they know that evening snack is such a big consumption pattern, and that it's the biggest opportunity happening in India today. So for us, this is super exciting. So we can go through the influencers, which I would say is the mothers, the traders, and the industry board. So let's talk about the mothers. I've never seen such strict mothers in terms of their mindsets on dry fruits in the entire world. So like I said, it's a morning prescription. You get it. The consumption pattern is they typically go to their dedicated shop. They'll buy a half kg or a kg for kind of the month's supply. We found in our research that people will be innovative. They'll crush it up or do something for the one person in the family who doesn't really like them, who won't really consume them. And we also found that through about 1,000 mothers, that 50% said they struggle getting their kids to eat their dry fruits because they're bland in taste, or because all the other snacks they're eating are so filled with so much taste that now you give them an almond or something like that, and they're just like, what is this? I don't want this. So they feel it's a struggle for them. Wintertime, also the main consumption period, we're also seeing that change. I would say don't worry. I eat almonds, cashews, and pistachios all through the summer. I'm alive. I'm well. I'm fine. So you guys can eat plenty of them during the summer as well. Don't worry about only eating your dry fruits in the winter. They're good all year round. Um, so with the mothers, I would say it's mostly, their mothers, then passing it on from, their mother to their mother, and everyone has got their information mostly from their mother's mother, which in terms of, nothing bad against all the mothers, right? But in terms of the education level coming from, 30, 40, 50 years ago, it just isn't what it is today. And the difference in, like we talked about, functionality of foods and these types of things, it's changing. Or you have modern influencers. So then you're kind of seeing in India right now, you're seeing actually, I think, three different aspects. One is people who are still mostly Ayurveda based. Then you're seeing a hybrid kind of Ayurveda / Western based ideas. And then you're seeing a Western kind of more nutrition, just 100% nutritional value based of what is this giving you in terms of nutritional value. So here, another just kind of, to me, a really funny aspect of the consumption in India. So here's your blanched almonds, right? So your mom has soaked them overnight and then she's taken the peel off, right? How many people have experienced that? Excellent. But the funny part is your mom paid a premium for that perfect brown skin at the shop. She paid 50 to 100 rupees extra for that perfect brown skin with no specks, no scratches, 100% the best looking almond or walnut she could buy, yet she came home, soaked it, and took the skin off, right? So this is kind of the more laughable aspect we're seeing in India. And it's so funny because everyone says, Indians are the most value and, price conscious people in the world, yet we see this thing happening, which to me is just, it's hilarious, right? So I'm, trying to educate one at a time usually. And I even have good friends, and she tells me, oh, I bought these big, beautiful, light colored walnuts. Fantastic, right? So I'm listening, and I said, what'd you do with them? Oh, I crushed it up and I put it in this thing. So there again, the irony, right? If you're going to crush it up and then put it into something, why did you pay a premium for the biggest size and the light color, right? The retailers and the traders are laughing all the way to the bank, right? Everyone, they're all laughing on the way to the bank, and then you get home and you've put it into this thing when you could have just done it any other way you wanted to. So you don't need to buy the most perfect things like that. Here, everyone's nightmare in India, right? When you're buying dry fruits, this is, poor quality. In the US, we would eat a quality probably 5 times worse than this in terms of the white scratches that you see. We absolutely don't care. We were never raised to care about that. So for our snacking purposes, we would eat these absolutely no problem. We wouldn't think twice. I've only started to think twice now that I've been in India for some time, right? So then I'm, wait a second, maybe so it's, this is what you would see. I have a video. Maybe we'll get into that. If not, we'll skip it. We'll go back to it. No worries. So let's wait. Yeah, it's fine. So I'll just explain where those scratches come from. So in California, because the industry is so large, I'll give you an example. The company I used to work with, we would process 1 million pounds of almonds per day in our facility, right? And what we call a huller sheller is just a massive piece of machinery, and it has these rollers, and it's literally the almond shell will go in between, and it's going as fast as it can, and it's ripping that shell off as fast as possible. And that's where you'll start to get these white specks, is when that thing rips and it takes a little piece of it off, right? But like I said, it's purely machinery based. There's no conspiracy. There's nobody in the back of the room extracting the oil out of each single almond. That way we can then resell it, right? Don't worry about that. The USDA actually sits in our factories on a daily basis to monitor the food practices in the US. So, don't worry about that. Nobody's stealing the oil. No big deal. The other thing, the people controlling and influencing it would be the traders themselves. Their number one concern in terms of a businessman and things is liquidity in the market. So they're not going to try new things that aren't going to move in the market, right? For them, it's a large risk to try a new almond variety that might be smaller shaped, darker color, because if the market rejects it and all the consumers don't want it, then he's stuck with that stock and it's not going to move. So we're only at the beginning of seeing some guys take a little bit of risk in doing that. But for the most part, we're still only selling one main variety of California almonds, which is the nonpareil variety, which is about actually now 40 to 50% of the entire crop that comes from California. It's kind of the golden child of the almond varieties. As well as these guys are mostly very old school, right? A lot of these guys they're uneducated, they're purely traders, they've been raised in lineage families. Typically most of the trade was controlled in Delhi. So most of these guys aren't educated themselves, and therefore they're not going to educate the consumer on all these different things, because actually it means less money for them as well, right? Why would I tell you that you're paying me a premium for no reason, right? Their thinking is better to let you pay the premium and then no issues, go to the bank later and have a good night, right? I would say the last person that also contributes to this perception is even the almond board, the almond industry board. Have you guys seen, how many people have seen this logo before or seen the commercials in India for California almonds? Okay, so some people here. So in California, the farming is extremely organized, especially for almonds, and we have an entire board that represents the entire industry of California almonds. And that board knows exactly how many pounds that each processor processes of almonds, and that processor pays a fee to that board. And then that board uses that money to market California almonds around the entire world globally. So as of last year, their budget was about $80 million. And then they'll go to places like China, India, Europe, and try and promote overall California almond consumption. Now, also you get some freeloaders like Australia who don't do any marketing, but then they get some of the benefit of the almonds as well. Australia produces about 7% of the world's almonds. Their harvest is opposite, so typically around April, May, you'll start to see some Australian almonds coming into the market in India. But until that time, it'll be all California. But I would say is, if you look at these images, right, these are perfect looking almonds. Like these are beautiful almonds, right? So obviously the board themselves is not going to put out an advertisement with a bunch of ugly almonds. Yet it contributes continually to this perceptual issue that we're seeing. So we're wondering is well, how do you still promote the overall growth of almonds, but then how do you overall promote the perceptual changes that need to happen? And my take is it's right here, right now, right? What I'm trying to do right here. So I hope everybody takes that with them today. So for us, this is one of our products for Bazana that this brand just launched actually last week. So sorry, my presentation actually not that good because we've been launching. It's been crazy. But one of the issues is that in the US, like I said, we would have a very, quote, low grade almond, but it wouldn't be low grade. I would eat it no problem night and day. And that would be in your snack packs, which also brings down costing, which also gives you a better margin, as well as brings down costing for the consumer. In India, we can't do that. We don't have that luxury. I still have to pack the #1 grade of almond in a snack pack, because if I give you a lower quality grade, you're going to go, this brand is crap. What is this, right? I don't want this. So even for us in the snacking market, which is the market that really needs to pick up in terms of these products, we find it a big, that was a big debate for us in the past year as we've been building out this brand and getting ready for launch was, do you put, what quality grade do you put in the pack? And we took the decision that in the beginning, no matter what, we're putting the #1 grade in this pack, because we can't risk with the current, perceptions in India, to put a lower grade and then have people reject it based on that. So at this time, this is a #1 grade nonpareil almond. I hope in a couple of years I could tell you again that it's actually a different variety, a different grade, and I can give you an even better price point. But we'll see, So this is the brand we've launched in the past week. It's primarily a general trade brand. So we're trying to, help people when they are at that Kirana shop on the go, when they're, outside the office having chai, taking a break, wherever you end up, that now at least you have an option to have something healthier, and yet tasty, right? Which is kind of the key words right now. I even hate saying it, healthy and tasty. So this for us is the primary goal, because now for a lot of people, there'll be, a trading up phenomenon of like, okay, I'm hungry, I can eat a bag of potato chips. Oh wait, there's roasted salted almonds for $20. Like, why not, right? The amount of money is not that great, and the quality of product is much higher. Plus, as VJ was talking about, in terms of fullness, these types of products are some of the best products in the world. The amount of fullness you can get from 5 to 10 to 15 almonds is amazing, right? You're probably going to get 2 to 3 hours of fullness, rather than if you eat a bag of potato chips, you're full for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then you're hungry again, right? So you might as well eat 4 bags of potato chips then, right? But nobody wants to do that as well. So, hopefully if we place this product in as many places as possible, then as that option occurs, which I think you'll find in India coming, as that option occurs more and more often, people will move away from purely price sensitivity, and that perception will move even quicker as it compounds over the coming years. So right now we're doing, almonds, pistachios, cashews, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. It's all dry roasted, so there's no frying involved. It's all dry roasted. There's no oil added in the application. We're starting with just the roasted salted variants, and then we'll have more flavored stuff. So you'll have your masalas, and you'll have your cheese and jalapeno, things like that, as well as trail mixes, which we're super excited about. The trail mixes like a cranberry, almond, and cashew, which is just like an amazing, and it's actually an experience to eat that type of product. It's such a good tasting product. You get so much flavor, and in this format, it's on the go, so you don't need to worry about what you're eating as much. You can grab a pack and go from there. So I think moving forward, just brand education and overall, as someone rightly asked, VJ, in terms of category creation, that's it. Category creation is a massive task, and it takes years and years to happen. Luckily, we have guys like VJ who have come in very early to kind of set the stage and then keep things going. And there's also a big advantage in terms of branding to be the category creator. But I think more so in the future, you can't just make claims. Right now in the U.S., you can't just make a claim. You have to back it up. Right? You have to show people with tangible things, how is this, what you say it is. Right now, I think India is in that kind of pre-phase where people are just saying whatever and anything goes. It's kind of the wild, wild west, right? I've looked at packaging for over a year now. I've gone crazy looking at every single package that you find at a Kirana shop or anywhere in modern trade as well. Most of the brands are out of regulation in some way, either with FSSAI in terms of their claims, or the regulation just isn't there yet in terms of making those claims. So I think moving forward, the consumer will become more educated, will want to know, okay, exactly where is my food coming from, and all these things. Big trends that we see in China, in the US, and places like that. India's a little behind, but I do think that that's coming quite rapidly, and it'll compound much more than in those other countries. Here, just really quick, you can see this is a banana being sold in China. So most of the retail shops now, you can scan a QR code in China, and it'll tell you essentially exactly where that product came from. Right? Now they use this to avoid the food safety scams. China's been notorious for those. I think India has just as many probably, but they just don't get out as much, and people haven't freaked out as much in the short term, but probably over the long term they will. When I was in China, when I was living there, there was a milk scandal where babies' heads were swelling because of this stretched milk. These guys had stretched the milk with chemicals and all these things, and then this was happening. Local mafia trying to cover it up, all of these things. But the scare was so great that even today, as actually right now in China, Chinese brands are becoming more popular for the first time. Typically, China is I only want foreign products. Only give me Australian, New Zealand milk, U.S. dairy, all these other products from Europe. Now they're starting to have an uptick in local brands, but still for certain products, especially like milk in China, they are still scared because of what has happened there before. But you're seeing a lot of transparency with these types of things like QR codes on everything. It's also a big marketing aspect in China that you can scan the QR code, find out where it's come from. There's some marketing probably inside of there, but more of showing you this is where this has come from, and I can confirm that via this thing. So yeah, I just think moving forward, the consumer will want to know more and more, no matter what. Where's my food coming from? What's the quality? What's the food safety aspect? Is this coming from a decent facility? As well as, moving from unbranded to branded. I think we're really one of the first big snack brands to hit the market in terms of general trade for a product like these. So I think, over the coming 2 to 3 years, you'll just see a massive, massive amount in the FMCG space of people coming into, and that you'll see a lot of the branding starting to happen. And it's happening across all categories. If you surveyed an Indian consumer only 4 years ago and you asked them their preference for a mobile brand, 1 out of 10 would have cared. Today it's about 5 to 6 out of 10 care what the brand is, right? So that the branding is happening at a rapid pace, and I think that we'll see that across all segments, snacking, all these things. It'll be a massive change in the market, and it's exciting. So thank you guys. I'll be glad to take any questions.